and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. It's that time of the year again where we give our season predictions. Now, with me, I'm host Andy, first of all. Back with me as usual is our two guests who've been on the last 2 years for our season predictions. Back with me today are Steve and Luke. How are you, boys?
I'm pretty good, to be honest. I'm hopeful for the season. What about you, Luke?
Well, more hopeful than last season, let's just put it that way. But, I mean, in fairness, for a tanking season, it wasn't that bad, actually. It was quite entertaining, so you can't really complain. But hopefully better this year.
I mean, 3 wins, worst record in the league, but then you did trade that pick down with the Panthers. So, yeah, I think you did well. And obviously got DJ Moore as part of that. We are here for our third annual installment of our season predictions. Now, I won the edition last year and Steve won it in 2021. So Luke will be hoping that this year he can finally win this.
Predict the Bears to win the division and you'll be fine.
I am feeling good about this. I'm feeling like I'm a winner to this time. Feeling like a winner. Come on.
So as per usual, we are going to give our predictions for each division from 4th to 1st, as well as other categories we're doing. So the categories we are doing, as well as the teams with the 1st to 4th, 4th to 5th in each division. We're also giving our 3 wildcard teams from each conference, as well as our comeback player of the year, our surprise team, most disappointing team, the team who will have the 2024 first overall pick, offensive rookie of the year, defensive rookie of the year, offensive player and defensive player of the year, MVP, AFC winners, NFC champions, and finally, right at the end, we'll do our Super Bowl winners. And oh boy, just wait until you hear mine. So we're going to start off this time with the NFC rather than the AFC, heading on to the NFC East first, which is obviously Steve's division with his Philadelphia Eagles. So Steve, going to you first, from 4th to 1st, how is the NFC East going to look in 2023?
So let's start with the obvious. Bottom of the pile is going to be the Redskins. Now, sorry, the Commanders. Sorry, the whatever it is they decide to change their name to next. The thing with that franchise is, yes, it's great they got rid of Dan Snyder. That man is not just a cancer on their team, he's a cancer on football. But he's left an absolute mess behind, and it will take them a good few seasons to fix that. They're starting Sam Howell at quarterback this year. All right. I guess he's the kind of best of what you could find on the market. But let's be honest, that's not a quarterback that's going to win you a league. That's a guy who he's a couple of seasons away from even being kind of the level of a Daniel Jones. They still have, for me, one of the top 3 wide receivers in the league in Scary Terry. They've got a decent running game, but the pass rush is terrible and the secondary is awful. And they've got 2 teams with big offenses and a team that just grinds you going up against them. And I just think they're gonna have another torrid season. Third, straight away, that's an easy one. The Giants. I think they're going to fall back from last year. They drafted well. I love Davies as a coach. I love that kind of smash mouth, run first, but let Daniel Jones take off when he needs to approach. But again, it's a team they're still a good couple of seasons away. They need a couple more pieces before they're in contention. They're a team that can easily get a winning season, 9-8, 10-7, but they're not a team. At a push, they could make a wild card, but I can't see it. I think they're going to drop back a little this year, but I still think they're a very strong team, and they are a team that's got a really good future ahead of them, especially with Davies as the head coach. Second is going to be the Cowboys. Their problem comes at quarterback. It doesn't come a running back. It doesn't come a wide receiver. They've got some excellent tight ends in there. They've got arguably the best defensive player in the league in Micah Parsons, but at the same time, it's putting it together. And Mike McCarthy, when he's got elite level talent, he can win things. When he's got mid-level talent, which is what he's got there with Dak Prescott at quarterback, he'll win. He'll have a winning record, but he's not going to be setting the heather on fire. They'll be about 10-6, 11-6, 12-5 this year. And then at the top, obviously the Eagles. Nothing lost from last year's team that hasn't been replaced with better. I think we've had, when I came on your podcast earlier, Andy, I was talking about how well the Eagles drafted this year, how fortunate we were to let certain people drop further down the ratings, down the rankings from off-field issues. But the Eagles are the perfect franchise for players who have off-field issues, because you come here and it's like the Philadelphia media doesn't make anything of it. They're like, you're a Philly player, so you're a Philly player, and we back you no matter what. And that kind of team mentality that Sirianni is composed, it just breeds success. And we're going to see a really good performance in the Eagles this year. I reckon 13-4.
I mean, yeah, if you haven't yet listened to Steve's appearance on our podcast for our Eagles season preview, do check that out. But I totally agree with you. I've got the exact same 4th to 1st. I just think that the Commanders, I think, will go places, just not straight away. I don't think Josh Harris can do anything straight away. He's coming quite late into the off season, but I think certainly next year or the year afterwards, I think don't rule them out of the Drake May or Caleb Williams situation. So I think, but for this season, maybe a year too early. But finally, for you, Luke, how is your 4th to 1st looking for this division?
So I had the Eagles coming last. No, I didn't actually. I pretty much had the same as you guys. To be honest, Steve, I'm not sure I completely buy the whole Dak Prescott is average malarkey, to be honest. I think he's a decent quarterback. I think he's better than you give him credit for. But you are a divisional rival, so you are entitled to think that. It's the same as what I think of my divisional rival QBs. So I'm not going to argue the toss too much on it. But I do think the Eagles will probably win it. I think the Cowboys might run you closer than you think, actually. But it'll be interesting to see what happens because, I think like anything else, it really just, most of it relies on you being injury free and not losing one of the key members of your especially your offense. But I think, assuming that everybody gets the same sort of levels of injuries and stuff like that, then the Eagles should win it, no problem. So it's Eagles, Cowboys, Giants, Commanders, and the Commanders are going to be dreadful this year. I mean, I don't like what I see at all.
I think the Commanders may win more than you think. I don't think they'll be anywhere near a playoff contention. Maybe at a stretch, in the wild card conversation, maybe with 3 games left of the year, maybe week 16 or week 15, they'll still be involved. But I just don't think that. I think Ron Rivera, I think there's a coach in there. We saw that with Panthers, but I don't know whether it was working out at the Commanders team he's got. But I think you've got some good players there. You've got Terry McLaurin, Antonio Gibson, Brian Robinson. You've got a great defensive line, which is probably their biggest strength. So I think I think they could do something, but I just don't think it's going to be anytime soon. Sticking with you, Luke, heading on to your division, which is the NFC North, which features your Bears. Of course, if you haven't yet listened to Luke's appearance on the Chicago Bears episode we did, do check that out. But for you, Luke, who's finishing 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th?
Okay, well, I'm going to go in reverse order now. Unsurprisingly, I'm taking the Packers to finish last. I think, although I've heard a lot of people have said that they heard good things about Love, but I'm not buying it. I am not buying that at all. I think he's going to be a significant downgrade for them, and I don't think they'll be anywhere near as good. I think they're going to struggle a lot this year, and they could, easily finish bottom. I'm going to be the optimist, and I'm going to say the Vikings finish 3rd. We finish 2nd, and the Lions finish top of the division. Now, that said, here's what I think. I think the Lions are possibly the most hyped team in the history of the world at the minute. They're not nearly as good as everyone thinks they are, but I do think that the NFC North is probably going to be a bit of a coin toss this year in terms of who wins it and stuff. I'm being super optimistic that I think the Bears will finish 2nd in the division, but you just never know. I mean, from my point of view, I think anything above 7 wins is a win for me as being a Bears fan this year. And the kind of under-over is about 7.5 wins as far as I can see. So that seems reasonable to me. I think the Vikes will probably take a step back. I mean, they like I said, I think in the pod before, they were extremely lucky last year and finished a lot of games where they were single, within 1 win. 1 point, or one score of a win, and that can't continue. So I suspect that they'll take a major downgrade, and I don't think they will be as good. And I also think that Cousins will probably not be as good either. And I think what you might find is they'll move on from him at the end of this season. So I think it'll be interesting. But I do like what the Lions are doing, much as I hate saying it. But they are overhyped. I mean, they're not going to win the Super Bowl or anything like that. But I think I will take them to win the division, grudgingly, I must say.
That is interesting because my NFC North is completely different to yours in every position. So I've got the Vikes actually winning the division. I think, everyone has been talking about their defense, but at the same time, Brian Flores has come in, a guy I'm a big fan of, and he may he showed in Malmy that he took a bunch of nobodies, or half the team, a bunch of nobodies, and he made them. I think it was like a 20-game streak of, it was a 20-game streak of. It was either turnovers or takeaways. It was one of the two, or touchdowns on the. There was a massive stretch we had where we were getting constant. I can't remember now whether it was defensive touchdowns, whether it was defensive takeaways, but I still think offense has got, I know Cook's gone, but you've got Jefferson still there. You've added Jordan Addison. Kirk Cousins had one of his best years, despite what the stats say last year. So I think they'll still win a division. I've got the Lions second. I think that I do question their draft activity, but at the same time, I think they've still got a good team there. They've got a great running back room with Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery. Morrison Brown is one of the more underrated receivers in the league. Jared Goff had a really good year last year. Throw back to his old Rams days. And that defense is fierce. And I think Aiden Hutchinson is only going to get better. And I think he definitely is in contention for that Defensive Player of the Year award. And then third, I've got the Packers over the Bears in fourth, because I think all four teams are really good. I think it's definitely one of the best divisions in football right now. I just think that I'm the opposite to you, Luke, where I'm actually on the Jordan Love hype train. I think, Steve, you said you are as well. And I think that with Christian Watson there, you've got Aaron Jones and Dylan in the backfield. I do worry about Matt LaFleur. I do worry that maybe he was a bit covered up by Aaron Rodgers. Well, I think we'll see the true LaFleur this year, whether he is actually a good coach or not. Then the Bears fourth, I just think that I don't think whether Matt Eberflus is the guy long term. Now, Luke, I can see you in the background really angry with that decision.
Come on. No, I mean, it could go either way with the Packers. Yeah, right. It could go either way. My suspicion is that the hype train is up big style, and I think he'll struggle. He might end up being a good player, but I think he might have what you might call the rookie struggles. Even though he's not a rookie, but it's his first season really properly. But the sample size isn't big enough to know if he's good enough or not. That's the problem. So nobody really knows until he's in the heat of the moment. But I'm hoping that he collapses in week one, and that's him. We sack him like 800 times. That's what I'm hoping.
I mean, yeah, he won't be the first quarterback who had rookie struggles or first-year starting struggles. Look at Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers. Even he only got 6 wins in his first year. So, yeah, but I think long-term, him and Watson would be a great duo. Now, Steve, you in your Eagles podcast called Justin Fields a wish version of of Jalen Hurts. So I'm intrigued how your division's going to look from fourth to first.
Okay, I think Luke probably wants to put me on mute at this point. I actually have exactly the same listing as you, Andy. Now, I do completely agree. The Vikings will take a step back this year. I think the loss of Dalvin Cook is a big loss, but Mattison's always been that guy sitting right at the back going, give me my chance, give me my chance. This is his chance this year. To be honest, if he'd gone anywhere else in the last 3 years when he was back up to Cook, he'd probably been a starting back. So I fancy him to have a really big year this year. TJ Hawkins has just signed a new deal. Hawkinson for me is one of the top 5 tight ends in the league. You have Justin Jefferson, who, to be honest, I'm looking forward to the season. I actually see Jefferson and Jamar Chase having a kind of tete-a-tete, one-on-one the whole season for like the receiving yards leader, because I can see both of those really turning it on this year, and I'm looking forward to that. I think the Vikings defense might be letting them down. I've never been kind of sure on their secondary. But again, I also always find historically the teams that go to M&T Bankfield, I can't remember the name of it. Bankfield. The Vikings just have a very solid home record and home crowd, and that just tends to brings the results. Now, when I said I felt that Fields was a wish version of Jalen Hurts, the difference between the two, look, yeah, and you can comment on this afterwards, yeah. Accuracy, durability. With the two of them, it's like when that ball's there and the play's breaking down, yeah, Hurts will sit in that pocket an extra second longer and then take off. Fields, if his first and second receivers aren't there on his first look, second look, he'll go, right? That's problematic. You want your quarterback to sit in there and make all the reads before he leaves. And I don't think that Fields has that in him. I think this season what you're going to see with Fields is he's going to go, a lot of teams are going to recognise that he's a scrambling quarterback, and you're going to see a lot more setups that are kind of like that are run based to try and slow down that Bears run game. And I don't think Fields will get nearly the yardage scrambling this year he will that he did last year. I'm hoping he'll be a bit more durable because when he plays, he's fun to watch. But again, I want to see more accuracy. I want to see more throws. He's got DJ Moore there now. He really should be better this year with his arm, with his accuracy. But that'll be the killer. If you get to the end of the season and Fields is leading a 6-11 team, and Moore has less than 1,000 yards, then I won't be blaming it on DJ Moore. Also, I'm not on the Jordan Love hype train, but I do think there is history there of Green Bay bringing in quarterbacks, sitting them under a top quarterback for a couple of years, then leaving under a cloud, and they're the guys stepping forward and being kind of that guy. I love Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs as a receiving crew. I think that's two guys that are very young, very hungry, very fast, and have great arm strength and the ability to kind of avoid dropping the ball. And as someone who's had both Jalen Reagor and Nelson Aguilar on our team, I can tell you what it's like having a wide receiver that drops the ball. And then the Lions, I agree with Luke, it's the hype train, but I love the hype train. I love the Dan Campbell hype train. It's so much fun to watch. The man is a lunatic, and the team plays like they're being coached by a lunatic, and that's great to watch. I think their run game might suffer a little this year. I think that I don't think they'll be punching the ball in quite as well. I do think they'll be great in the open field, but I think in that kind of last 5-10 yards, we're going to see Hawkinson have to really pick up the slack. Yeah. The Lions, they will push the Vikings. The Lions will win 10 games this year, but that's as much as they're going to win. If they're lucky, they get a wild card.
Fair enough. And now we're going to quickly skim through the other two divisions in this conference. So the NFC South, I've gone for a first to fourth of Panthers, Falcons, Saints, and then the Bucks. And then for you, Steve, how's your first to fourth looking?
Falcons, then Panthers, then Bucks, then Saints. Saints are in a big transition year this year. There's no Sean Payton. There's no Kamara at the start of the year. There's no standout talent on the team anymore. It's a good unit, but it kind of needs that leader. It needs that kind of spark. Still one of the best fan bases. Still one of the best places in the league to go to watch a game, but just not for me. Panthers, I don't care about the Bryce Young hype. I really don't think he's that good. I think he's going to be another undersized quarterback. A bit like Kyler Murray. He might show up a little on the first season and a half. Quarterbacks will work him out. You need bigger quarterbacks sitting behind a really big offensive line, and that's what the Panthers have got. They've got a small quarterback with a big offensive line. So, nah, I can't see it. Falcons. Now, every draft I've gone in this season, I've traded with Luke for a couple of seasons for Pitts and Robinson and everything else. I think they have the core there of a really good young team. They need to add to their offensive line and they need a secondary. But beyond that, if they can keep the rookies they've got in the last 2-3 seasons together, maybe extend their contracts, that's a franchise that's going places. I am not convinced on Desmond Ridder at quarterback, but I'm happy to be proven wrong on that one. I think he didn't look great last season when he did come in. They let Mariota go to let him have a shot this year. Let's see how that one goes. As for the Bucks, Baker Mayfield's at quarterback, so they're winning nothing.
Fair enough. And then for you, Luke, how are you seeing the NFC South?
So I'm seeing the Bucks finish last. I think the Panthers finished third. I think they improved a little bit, but probably justifying the fact that they were poor. They've got some good players, but I think they'll struggle. I think the Falcons look good actually, but I think they'll finish second in the division. I still think Saints will win, but I think it'll be very close between them. I mean, I agree with you, Steve. I think the Falcons have got the basis of really good team offensively. So I think it'll be really, really interesting. But I think the Saints will just edge it to win the division.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just not convinced on Dennis Allen. I think he'll be the reason they lose rather than anyone else. I think you've got Chris Olave, Derek Carr, Cameron Jordan still there. I think there's some good players on this team. I just think the coaching, like the Bucks as well, is going to ultimately let the Saints down. But sticking with you, Luke, for your NFC West, fourth to first.
So the Cardinals are going to finish last. And in fact, they're my pick for the first pick, the number one pick for next year, actually, because they're going to be terrible. I think they're really looking like they're going to tank. I have the Rams finishing third. I think the Rams are paying the price now for their Super Bowl win, although every fan would pay that price, to be fair, to win the Super Bowl. I've got the Seahawks coming second, and I think the 49ers will win that division comfortably. That's my feeling on it. I think that the 49ers are just stacked all over the place.
Yeah, I agree. I've got the exact same for you. I've also got the Cardinals as my team to have the first overall pick in 2024 as well. So I think they're set for a difficult 2023. And then finally for you, Steve, your NFC West from fourth to first.
It's exactly the same as you two. I think the Rams will be better than they were last year because Cooper Kupp's going back fit, hopefully. And we saw signs last season of Cam Akers in the run game starting to get going a little bit, but had to because Stafford didn't know what to throw to. I think the Cardinals are actively tanking, and everyone can see it. I mean, there's no kind of hiding it. And we lost an offensive coordinator down there last year. I hope he has a really fun first year. Because that team is going to stink. I think it's going to be closer between the Seahawks and the Niners at the top of the division. The Niners, you're right, are stacked in every position. There is so much talent on that roster, but sometimes that can count against you because you get certain players going, I want more playing time than this guy, that guy. As long as they can keep a nice, solid, peaceful dressing room, they'll win the division. If you start to see signs of wariness, the Seahawks they also have talent in almost every position on offense. Defensively, I think they struggle a little bit, but they're better. If they're better than they were last year, especially in the secondary, then the Seahawks can go to 11 wins this year. And that might be enough to win the division. Again, just depends how much harmony they can maintain in the Niners dressing room.
Yeah, I think the Seahawks will be good. I just think the Niners are that much better. Now, I do worry about Brock Purdy, whether he had a great 5, 6, 7 games down the stretch, but we saw with Jimmy Garoppolo, he had 5-0 starter, and everyone thought he was the next Montana, the new Messiah, and he sort of have a good but not great career. And I think that people maybe need to take the brakes on Purdy until they've seen a full season from him. But I think that's all to look forward to. Before we go on to the AFC, I just want to get out of the way. Comeback Player of the Year. Can you guys see anyone but Damar Hamlin winning this award? He's made the roster. Do you see anyone else winning that? Or do you think that it's pretty much dead cert that he's going to win that Comeback Player of the Year award?
I think from the PR perspective, it's going to be Damar Hamlin. I think in terms of his actual ability on the field and what he does, it will nowhere near be as great as everyone makes out. But who should it go to if you take away the fact that it'll be a PR thing? I think that the Sean Payton influence in Denver will actually see us seeing Russell Wilson as the Comeback Player of the Year. I think he's got so many good weapons out there. I think Payton can sort of that offensive line, give him time, get him players that are open, give Russ the confidence again that he seemed to have lost last year, that he is a top-level quarterback. And I can see Russell Wilson having a really solid year at the Broncos.
So yeah, Sash, you got your pick, Russell Wilson. I'm picking Damar Hamlin for that reason. Although I think if he makes Ross, I think someone who died on the field to come back and play NFL football again, I think it's more than enough of a reason. I do think that Tua Tagovailoa will be one of the people that within a shout of for similar reasons to Damar Hamlin, about his injuries and his concussions, he might be someone that I think will have a good year, and I think he'll certainly be in the conversation. But I just see Damar Hamlin to be back on the field after dying on the pitch. I think it's more than enough of a reason. Luke, for you, who's your pick for Comeback Player of the Year?
Well, I mean, the other player that I think might end up having a bit of a shout is possibly Michael Thomas, who's had a horrible couple of years.
That's a shocking
and you can't deny his talent. But it's interesting. He's a bit of a wild card pick, but he could be if he does amazing stuff. Then he could be the guy that does get that. I've always liked him, so you never know. But I for the same as you, I can't really see past Hamlin at all. I just can't. But I think Tua is an interesting shout as well, actually, just because of his concussions, and it'll be interesting to see if he does get another concussion, if he then says, right, that's enough, I can't do this anymore, because it was quite serious, really, and concussions, getting a couple of them in a row was pretty nasty. So I just hope that he can stay healthy this year and avoid any of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Because he is basically, I think, 1 or 2 concussions away from retiring, because he's even thought about it this off-season before he did say he's coming back. I think Sam Donald's a shout as well. I think if Purdy goes down injured, I think Donald could, with that Shanahan system, he could do something. But Steve, as well, going back to you, we've both given our first pick in the 2024 draft to Cardinals. Are you on the same wavelength as us, Steve? Or is there going to be someone else you're thinking of that might have that role instead?
Absolutely not. The teams who would have competed for that role have all drafted well. The Cardinals drafted poorly. The Cardinals traded away the best players. The ones they have got are injured. They're a team that they had their window a couple of seasons ago. It didn't work, and now they're struggling. When your best wide receiver is Marquise Brown, and he's more interested in in being in the bars and strip joints than he is on the field, that pretty much says everything for your offense. So no, I can't see anyone but the Cardinals winning the first pick next year.
And they'll be surely, unless something goes horribly wrong, drafting Caleb Williams. And they may even, depending on the Texans' record, have the first 2 overall picks, and they'll probably get Marvin Harrison Jr. with that as well. So yeah, I think it'll be an exciting future, but I think it'll be an awful 2024. So we've done the NFC, now time for the AFC, and our first division is, of course, the AFC East, which is where I come in for my first to fourth, or from fourth to first, I'll do, because it is seen right now as the best division in the league. So fourth, I think it's pretty obvious. I think the Patriots, I think they may still win 8-9 games to still be bottom. I think the division's that good. I think they could easily still finish bottom with a winning season. This may or may not surprise people. Dolphins I got in third. I just have issues about. I'm not overly sold on McDaniel just yet, and I just think that Tua's health is obviously a concern and things like that. But I think we'll still have a good season. I think we'll still win double-digit games, maybe even 11 wins. But I still think that 11 wins could still get us, still in third place in that division. And then second place, is it the Bills? Is it the Jets? I've got the Jets winning the division over the Bills. I think the Bills, if they lose Stephon Diggs, if he does leave at some point, like there's rumours of that happening, I think the Bills could be third. But I just think as long as you've got Stephon Diggs playing happy and you've got Josh Allen there, you've got a great defense, I think you've got a good but not a great head coach in Sean McDermott. I still think there'll be a team that will still be there and thereabouts. And then the Jets, I'm buying into the hype. I've said it before, even before Hard Knocks came on. If you finish 7 wins with Brees Hall injured for half the season, without Rodgers and Cook, you're playing Mike White, Trevor Siemian, Zach Wilson all that season, and that defense is as good as it is. If you have that defense once again, you have Dalvin Cook, you have Brees Hall healthy for the entire year, and you have Aaron Rodgers, I think this team is going to be, maybe from 14 wins or 13 wins. I think they'll be that good. I think that they'll have a real bounce this year and real positive season. Steve, back to you for your AFC East. Fourth to first.
You might want to cover your ears here, Andy, because I've got the Dolphins finishing last.
What?
I've got you finishing last. And again, this goes partly down to his health. I don't think Tua sees out the season. I think you're 6, maybe 7 games in, he goes down. He's a very fragile quarterback. He has the hip issues, he has concussions. He has 2 of the best wide receivers in all of football in Waddle and Hill. But there's something about that Dolphins team that doesn't feel contenderish. I watched them preseason last year and I watched preseason this year, and I haven't seen much of a change from last year's team. I don't think Tua stays fit. I don't think you drafted as well as you think. I still think Tyreek Hill and Waddle will be an insane threat as long as Tua's on the field. But no, for me, the Dolphins in fourth. In third, I don't believe the hype. It's the Jets. I'm going to give you one very simple reason for this. What we saw last season at Green Bay was the deterioration of a formerly elite quarterback. Okay, I think the Aaron Rodgers that the Jets have traded for is the Peyton Manning who was at the Broncos when the Broncos won the Super Bowl. I don't think he has the arm. I don't think he can read it as well. I don't think he's as quick as he used to be. He doesn't have that elite playmaking ability that he used to have. And I think for all the pieces you put around him, you're going to have to lean on them very heavily. I do love that defense, though. I think Sauce Gardner is incredible. But Rodgers is not the missing piece of that puzzle. I actually think they should have gone for someone more relevant, more consistent. and more in their prime. And I think Rodgers has passed his.
Sorry to
Second,
interrupt you, Steve. Were you saying this about Stafford and Brady when they joined the Rams and the Buccaneers? Weren't we saying the exact same thing about particularly Stafford as well as Brady? Oh, he's over the hill. Oh, he's declining in New England. Oh, he's declining in Detroit, and give him a new home.
who was saying that? Because it wasn't me.
No, well, a lot of people were. A lot of people were. I just think that
the thing was, I've got to go back to that, Andy. If you're going to say Stafford was declining in Detroit, Stafford never declined in Detroit.
People were saying
Stafford got the shit beaten out of him in Detroit constantly, but he was always a top quarterback with no weapons to throw at, especially after Megatron retired. Okay, he was always the guy who was carrying that franchise, even when he was like playing with a broken collarbone and such. He is, when he went to the Rams, he was a perfect fit. Brady was an interesting one because he didn't really have a drop-off at the Patriots. He left because he was like, I'm not getting the credit for this I deserve. And nobody knew when he went to the Bucks whether or not he was anything else. And it took him 2 games to show, no, I still have it. And Brady, when he saw himself getting into that kind of Manning, Rodgers, etc. decline, he retired because he knew if he played this season, he would have sucked.
I mean, yeah, he sucked. He did suck last year a little bit, but I just think that if you're winning 7 games with those quarterbacks I mentioned, like Mike White, Joe Flacco, Zach Wilson, Trevor Siemian, I think that surely even Aaron Rodgers' stats were still good, they just weren't as good as his previous years to his normal standard. But he still had over 20 touchdowns, had I think maybe 10 or 11 interceptions. He still had the good stats. It just looks bad because of his previous years, and I think that. Even adding someone half as good as Rodgers is still an improvement on what they had before. So I think that's going to really improve.
Let me give you a counterpoint to that, okay? Aaron Rodgers had 20 touchdowns. How many touchdowns did the supposedly average, much worse quarterback Jared Goff have last year?
I don't know, but I'm sure it's probably similar. But Jared Goff
was a lot more. And
I'm actually a big defender of Jared Goff.
Yeah, arguably he didn't have quite the same quality of wide receiver core. Although Amon-Ra St. Brown is outstanding.
Yeah, Steve. Who's finishing first in the division?
Who's finishing first? It's the Bills. It's the Bills. I'd say the Jets hype train is just not. It's not. Let's say with Rodgers, it's just he's not there. He's not that guy. The Patriots are quiet. The Patriots are the most dangerous when they're quiet. They're scary when they're quiet. They've developed the run game slowly. I love Ramondre Stevenson. They've gone out in the summer and they've got players such as Juju Smith-Schuster, who is a very polarizing player, but on his day is a very, very talented player. And I think the Patriots win when they have a roster of players who are right there in the middle where everyone's just consistently good. And Belichick, obviously, is top 3 coach. If anyone can get a winning season out of what's there with Mac Jones at quarterback, it's Bill Belichick. But to suggest that the Bills are going to drop off, the Stephon Diggs thing is just, the stories came out, and within like 10 minutes of that coming out, Diggs squashed it. He came out and went, "That's bullshit. I'm not interested in leaving. I want to stay here. I want to win things." There's not many places he can go on that deal and get a winning team. And that Bills team is built perfectly for someone like Diggs, to be that out-and-out threat. Gabe Davis is your kind of deep, quick threat. They've got some good top tight ends. I love Dawson Knox. I think the running back is by committee, but their star running back is still Josh Allen. But Josh Allen has that cannon for an arm, and he has a lot more accuracy than the guys in the division around him. So for me, I can't see the Bills losing the division this year.
That is interesting. I'm intrigued to see what Luke has done for his division. So for you, Luke, how's your AFC East looking?
Patriots dead last. I think they're mid-tank. And I just don't see any real way back for them. Although, I do think the defense might not be too bad, but honestly, I think they're going to be poor. I think it's really interesting, actually, because I don't think the Dolphins will be that bad. I actually think, arguably...
Thank you. I'm glad someone's on the hype train like me.
I like Tua. I actually like Tua, right? And I'm not afraid to admit it. I like him. So I actually think it'll be very, very close at the top of that division. arguably you could even see 3 teams from that division in the playoffs because they're all good teams. They've all got good weapons. The reason that I like the Dolphins is because I think the weapons of Waddle and Tyreek Hill are just too good, right? They're too good for any team, and if you've got 2 elite, really elite level wide receivers there with a good arm, and assuming that Tua stays healthy and he plays as well as he can do, I don't see how you can stop that. And the way that they like to scheme the running backs as well suits them. I think the boy that they drafted, I don't even know how to pronounce his name, but Ashane, I think it is quite good.
Aiken, yeah.
Aiken, is that right? I couldn't actually pronounce.
Yeah.
But he looks pretty good as well, and he looks like a good, a really good draft pick as well. So I think it could be interesting. I think it's going to be interesting. I think the Dolphins will marginally finish third in the division, but I think they'll have a very good record. Again, I think the Jets will run the Bills close. I still think the Bills will win the division, but it will be so tight, and it will probably come down to in-division record. And it could even be a division record between the 3 of them. I take the Bills to win it by, really literally a hair, and that's it. I do think that the Jets will be better, and I agree with you. I think the defense is unbelievable, and I do think that Rodgers is an upgrade. Even though I don't like the guy, you have to admit he has quality, no matter what. And he's going to have a hard job managing the Bears franchise, though, from New York, right? So it's going to be tough.
Just to throw in on that one there. Jared Goff versus Aaron Rodgers last year, Andy. Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go. So Rodgers 3,695 yards, Goff 4,438. Rodgers 26 touchdowns, Goff 29 touchdowns. Rodgers 12 interceptions, Goff 7.
That's just one season. Put Rodgers.
If I look at Rodgers' stats, his completion percentage has been dropping off since 2020. His yards have been dropping off since 2020. His touchdowns have been dropping off since 2020. Last year was his worst year since 2019. Sorry, since 2017, and that was the year he was injured.
He's still going to have enough in the tank to elevate the Jets, though. When you think about it, he's still.
If he game manages, then the Jets, can do well. But I can't see them. He's not the elite quarterback he once was. He is. If he kind of inspires the guys around him and he gets that Peyton Manning effect, then the Jets will do well. I don't see it. I see a guy on the slide with an ego. I think he'll actually, damage that dressing room.
See with that. Though you don't need to be elite really as a quarterback. You just need to manage the game. They've got a really good running back. They've got arguably Garrett Wilson is one of the top young receiving talents. There's a lot to like about that team. There's an awful lot to like about that team. Even if you don't rate Rodgers, you've still got to acknowledge that he is an upgrade no matter what. And even if he isn't as good as he was, he's still a significant upgrade, and he's probably still a top 10 quarterback, even though I hate saying it as a Bears fan, probably still is.
Yeah, I agree.
When we go off here, by the way, I'll have a quick wager on that with you, Luke.
Yeah.
When we go off here, I'll have a quick wager with you about that, Luke, as to whether or not Rodgers becomes a top 10 quarterback this year.
I'm not sure I want to really particularly wager on it, but you still have to acknowledge he is an upgrade, and that makes them a contender straight away with the roster that they have, and the fact that he can, if things are going well, he can lead that dressing room. I mean, the other option is he throws them all under the bus, which is what he's done before. So let's see what happens. But I think it's interesting.
And I do think as well that, I know it's pains me, I'm defending the Jets so much here, but Rodgers didn't have Hackett last year, and Hackett was his coordinator when he won back-to-back MVPs. And I do think there's something in him being in a new setting, a happier surrounding for him. And I think that, he clearly wasn't happy in Green Bay, and I think we saw that. And I think, don't get me wrong, he could be declining. He's 39. He could be, not every quarterback can do a Brady and last to their 45, but I just think that if you've got him in new surroundings, even if it's just for 1 or 2 years, I think that he can still do what he does because he's got Hackett back. And we saw when Hackett left how much he declined. Now he's back. He's got, a better running room than Green Bay, a better defense than Green Bay. I think personally a better head coach than Green Bay. I think he's got better things around him. And I think that he's got guys around him. He's got Cobb. I know he's getting old. He's probably not going to get much to the ball. You've got Lazard as well as Wilson. I just think this team is going to be, I think it's going to be good. Moving on now, because we'll be here all day otherwise. Quickly skim through the AFC North and AFC South. So AFC North, for you first, Luke, who's finishing 4th to 1st?
Oh, that's interesting. I'm going to be controversial here, and I am going to say I think the Steelers still finish dead last. And people are up on the Steelers. They sort of say, oh, they've got a lot of talent and stuff, but I don't buy it. I don't think they'll be as good. I think they're still going to struggle. I think you're going to see year 2 struggles from the QB. I just don't see it, unfortunately. Much as I like Mike Tomlin as a head coach, and I think he pulled the rabbit out of the hat last year. He really did, because they were stinking. They were terrible. I still don't see them improving much, so I still think they finished dead last. I think the Browns finished third. I think the Ravens finished second, and I think the Bengals win it.
Okay, that is interesting. I think the Bengals are going to be obviously one of the teams that people look at as one of the AFC favourites.
Yeah.
But for you, Steve, are you similar to Luke? How are you seeing the AFC North?
Yeah, I'm not seeing it all that different. I still see the Steelers as the kind of weakest team in the division, but I also think to myself, is that a team that's so bad it'll finish last? Yes, it is. That's not just because of the Pennsylvania thing. There's a lot of very young guys in there, and there's a lot of guys who kind of came in as rookies and haven't really reached their potential. And for me, that's a team that, on defense, they will always be absolutely smash mouth, and Tomlin's teams are always like that. But offensively, there's just not the talent there to bring them up to the level of anything other than last in that division. I concur the Browns should finish third. I don't know. I have a sneaky suspicion this is Deshaun Watson's comeback year, and he won't get any credit for it, because obviously of what he has done and what's he alleged to have done. But there's enough talent there, and he is a very, very good quarterback on his day for me to say that the Browns can finish third, and they can maybe push for a wild card spot this year. Which just leaves me to decide: are the Bengals going to win the division, or are the Ravens going to win the division? And it's going to be the Bengals. It has to be the Bengals. It's the better quarterback. It's the better wide receiving core. It's the more balanced run game, and it's not the better defense. I'll say that now. I know they've spent a long time trying to fix that defense. They've also spent a lot of time trying to fix the offensive line. They still haven't got it quite right, but it gets better with each year. And Burrow is a superb quarterback. I've been watching the whole off-season, the whole Burrow versus Mahomes memes thing. It's a lot of fun to read. I actually think the two of them are the kind of guys we'll be talking about in the next 10, 20 years. The way when I started watching, you talked about Montana and Marino. That's the kind of the two guys we'll be talking about in 10 years' time. So yeah, Bengals to win it, Ravens to finish second. I think Lamar will have a superb season because he's got something to prove. But again, he's got his big money now. And we have seen a lot of quarterbacks who, once that big contract comes in, they slack off. It depends what kind of mentality he brings to the team. And most importantly, whether he's fit.
I think that's a big thing with Lamar Jackson. I really do think it's down to, that's been really the biggest problem they've had in recent years is his health. I think that, they were doing so well a couple of years ago, then he got injured and they're never the same. But I just don't personally think they've done enough around him. I think that Zay Flowers could be good. Odell Beckham has been good, and I think that after an injury, who knows whether he's back to the one we saw in LA or in New York years ago. And I do worry about that. And I don't think the run game's anything special. And I think John Harbaugh does at times lose some games for his aggressiveness with the fourth downs and going for it and stuff like that. So I do worry about the Ravens. I've got them third ahead of the Browns. I think the Browns will be last. I don't believe Watson will come back to his best. I think if we get the 2019 version of John Watson, and this team could even challenge for an AFC, but I just don't know whether he's going to come back to the player we all saw before, and I do worry about that. I think otherwise they got a good team. Nick Chubb, Peoples-Jones, Mari Cooper, Elijah Moore, Myles Garrett. They got some good players in this team, but I just don't know whether he will become the quarterback we all saw before. And I think that he's got a full off season now, no controversy around in this off season. That will help, but I think we could see him get back to his best. But I still think right now he is still, for me, until I see differently, he's still one of the more underperforming quarterbacks we've seen last season. So yeah, they're fourth and they're third. I have the Steelers second. Now this all hinges on TJ Watt's health. Now, when he played last year, they were 8-2 in games he played. So I think that we all see when he's there just how good they are with him. So I think if you get TJ Watt back for the whole year, I think Pickett will make an improvement. I really love George Pickens at wide receiver. I think he's really good. I like Najee Harris as well. And I think that if you've got Minka Fitzpatrick on your defense as well, I just think that this team, defense alone, can win you 7 games a year just by their defense alone. And I think TJ Watt is one of the best players in this position. And I think he may be the reason why they win a lot of games. And I think that Pickett will improve. But I sort of think the Bengals are first. I think this could be by 3-4 games they could win this division by. I think they're that good. They're one of my favourites to win the AFC. I think Joe Burrow, I think he is next Tom Brady. I think from a mentality point of view, from kind of style of play, I think he is that good. And I think that, especially on a rookie deal for him and Chase, this is their time to go out and win it, whether it's this year or next year. It's their time, to go out and win it. And I think they've got one more chance. I think they pay Burrow potentially next summer. So I think they've got a chance to win it this year with Chase as well on a rookie deal. They'll want to try and maximise that. So I think the Bengals will ultimately win this division. And sticking with talented quarterbacks and next generational quarterbacks, sticking with the AFC South, I've got the Jaguars winning it. I think Trevor Lawrence is primed for another leap, and I think he may even sneak into the top 5 or top 6 this year. I think he's primed for a really good year. I think the Titans will surprise people. I think they'll win way more games than people are thinking. I think you've got Derrick Henry there. You've got DeAndre Hopkins to come in. I think he'll be a great addition there. I think Mike Vrabel's an excellent head coach, and I think they'll be second for that reason alone. Third place, I've got the Texans. I think DeMeco Ryans has all the potentials of a really good head coach, a former Texans player, so he knows the franchise inside out, and a great time at as a DC in the 49ers. Now I'm fully aware that as a DC, that's not always translating into being a good head coach. We've seen that with a lot of coordinators haven't quite done it as a head coach. Todd Bowles being one most recent example, but I just think that I actually prefer TJ Stroud to Bryce Young in the draft. I think he'll be good. Whether it's his first year, I don't know, which is why I've got him third. I think Will Anderson will have a good year as well, good rookie year. But then the Colts are fourth. I think this team could be one of the worst in the whole league. I think that Richardson, as a Gators fan, is a player I love and I want to see him do well, but I just don't know whether he is in the right spot for him right now to do well. I think Pittman's a good number 2. I don't think he should be a number 1 wide receiver. Taylor missing the first 4 games. He wanted out. A lot of uncertainty there and the owner Jim Irsay getting a lot of criticism right now from Colts fans. So I just don't know whether that's enough for me, and I think they're going to be rock bottom. Steve, back to you for your AFC South from 4-1 or 1-4.
I'll go 4-1, and everything you're saying there about the Colts is my reasoning for them finishing last. The thing with the Colts is there is talent in that team. For Anthony Richardson, read last season's Justin Fields. Get the ball, 2 looks, take off. But when you have a really bad atmosphere between fans and owner, it translates to the pitch. And that translates into the dressing room. And the Taylor situation will have put fans off. It will have upset people in the dressing room. It's not a team that's going into the season kind of balanced and happy and ready to go. It's a team going in there with internal and external conflict. They are going to be terrible this season. And I'm looking forward to seeing them being terrible because Jim Irsay is the worst owner in football now that Dan Snyder has retired. In third, it'll be the Texans. I thought they made some excellent draft picks this year, which they needed to because that franchise was absolutely threadbare. But it's another 2, maybe 3 seasons before those will start to really show. We'll see the potential this year, but then it depends how they get on next year. Second, it'll be the Titans. Old, slow, ugly. But that's just, our friend Paul, who's a fan of theirs. But no, they're a team that's just no fun to watch. DeAndre Hopkins being added is great in terms of they desperately needed that threat. But at the same time, he's gone there for the money. He's not going there to win anything. The Titans are not a team capable of winning anything right now. So, yeah. And does Derrick Henry stay fit for more than 12 games? I don't know. I hope he does because I've got him in multiple fantasy franchises, but I just can't see it. And of course, they have the quarterback that everybody hates, the male-loving Will Levis sitting there in the backup row behind Tannehill, who we all just pray hits the field so that we can see him get splattered across the ground, much the same way as he splatters mayonnaise on bread and chips. Oh, I have to predict a winner, don't I? It's the Jaguars. The Jags last season looked as though they were a team in ascendancy. They had a lot of good rookies who were kind of coming into the 2 to 3 season window where they were looking to get paid and they were looking to raise the game. And last season they did. They made the playoffs. This season they repeat that. I think the addition of Calvin Ridley gives Trevor Lawrence one more weapon they didn't really need because he already had some pretty good players out there. Christian Kirk, everybody mocked him for that huge contract he got, but he delivered last year. And him and Ridley as a 1-2 threat, that's really going to go. That's really going to go far in that division. Evan Ingram, since moving from New York to Jacksonville, has blossomed into probably one of the best 5 tight ends in the league. They still have Travis Etienne, who was a superb running back last year. He's about to get paid this season to show that he's going to get paid. That Jaguars offense is high powered. I worry about them defensively when they play outside the division, but inside the division they should steamroller all 3 teams.
Yeah, I think the Titans may run them close, but I still think that the Jags will ultimately have too much. You mentioned that receiver room is actually really underrated. You mentioned there, you've got Kirk, you've got Ridley, you've got Ingram, and also you've got Zay Jones as a 4th choice. I think if Zay Jones is your 4th choice receiver, I think that's pretty good. So I think it's a good old team. Luke, finally for your AFC South projections.
So I've got the Texans finish last. Then I've got playoffs. Don't talk to me about playoffs. I just hope we win a game. The Colts are going to be 3rd. They're not going to be anywhere near the playoffs. They're going to be like Jim Mora all over again. It's going to be the same sort of quotes. I think that the Taylor situation is doing him a lot of damage, and I think it's probably destroyed the dressing room there. So I don't like it much. I'm with you on the Titans. I think they'll be better than a lot of people expect. I don't think they're going to win the division, but I think they may run the Jags close within a game. And I think the Jags will win it, but it will be closer than people think at the top of that division. But honestly, the Colts and the Texans will be lucky to have anywhere near a winning record this year. They're both going to be very poor. Maybe not the worst teams in football, but not great either.
Yeah, and of course, they also gave the Cardinals their 1st round pick from next year for the Will Anderson trade. So I think that's even more of a reason to put your money on the Cardinals having that number 1 pick come 2024.
It was a good trade, though, because Anderson was great, and he would have been a pick for me, so it was a good trade for the future. But it's, this year, they're still going to struggle, aren't they?
I mean, I do actually think the Texans may win more than what we think. I think they'll be nowhere near playoff contention, but I think they'll be nowhere near being one of the worst. I think maybe like 6 wins, maybe 6-11. I think he could easily have that. I think D'Amico Ryans, I think, could be a good coach again. He's not done it yet. He hasn't yet coached the regular season games as head coach, so we yet to see. But I think he could be really good for this team. Finally, our final division, the AFC West, which of course last year was all the talk. Everyone's saying it was the best division in football. It was, they're all going to get double-digit wins. Turns out it didn't happen. 2 teams made the playoffs in the Chiefs and the Chargers, but the Raiders and Broncos ultimately disappointed. So this year, whole different landscape of this division. But Luke, your AFC West from 4th to 1st.
Okay, so 4th, Raiders, unsurprisingly. Even Jimmy G can't save that franchise. It's still going to be spectacularly poor. The Broncos I see improving a lot from last year. I think I'm a big fan of Coach Payton. I think he's going to really improve things. But I still think they've got a bit of work to do to catch up on the Chargers and the Chiefs. So I think they're going to be 3rd, but not far off the pace. And I think the Chargers and the Chiefs will be going at it head to head. And I do think it'll be very close because I think the Chargers are going to improve it a lot this year. And I think the Chiefs are going to find it hard to keep that going without, significant draft capital and stuff, although they did as much as they could under the circumstances. They're still a great team. Mahomes is still a difference maker. I've got the Chiefs to edge it by a game over the Chargers is what I think.
Interesting. I actually think the Chargers are going to really be disappointing. They are my most underwhelming team this season. I just think that I don't rate Brandon Staley as the head coach. I think that they've done well getting Quentin Johnson in, and I think that Derwin James and Joey Bosa on defense is still good, but I just do not rate Staley at all head coach, and I think they'll ultimately struggle. I've got them finishing 3rd in the division with the Raiders 4th. I think the Raiders. Same with Bowles and Staley. I just don't like the head coach, and I don't like McDaniels for both his kind of personality as well as his ability as a head coach. I think he's terrible. So yeah, Raiders 4th, Chargers 3rd, Broncos 2nd. I think Peyton will get a kick out of Wilson. I think Wilson would improve. But I just don't think it'll be enough to beat the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are too strong. I think they'll win by, I think, maybe 3 or 4 games. I think the Broncos will still maybe have a double-digit win season, but I just don't think there'll be any. I think the Chiefs will be that good. I don't think they'll be anywhere near them. So finally, for you, Steve, your AFC West from 4th to 1st, or 1st to 4th. Maybe that's an easier way of going about it.
Yeah, 4th to 1st. So Raiders at the end. There's nothing inspiring about that Raiders offense. Jimmy G is a very middle-of-the-road quarterback. He's not really got an awful lot of talent to throw at. The Josh Jacobs situation, him kind of holding out right up until now, has hurt them. I mean, he'll come back. He'll be fresh for the start of the season because he's had no preseason kind of bumps and bruises. But it might take him a couple of days, a couple of games to warm up. He wants to get paid. He's not going to get paid in Las Vegas, so he's going to move. But I've swithered in this a lot. I agree with you that I see the Broncos improving a lot this season to Peyton. But improving a lot is winning maybe 3 more games. I don't think he's added a lot to the talent there. He's just added to the coaching staff and the mentality. And that might take them up to 8 or 9 games, but it's not going to be enough to get them out of 3rd in that division. It's going to be a very competitive division. Chargers again are going to finish 2nd. This is actually their year for the slide. Eckler's kind of coming towards the end. He wanted a new deal this year. They wouldn't give him it. They still have Mike Williams and Keenan Allen at wide receiver. Good veteran wide receivers, both just about on the turn. And like you say, they did well to get Addison in, but for me, they have in Herbert one of the most stable quarterbacks in that division. He's the guy that will set. He makes his reads fantastically, and his accuracy is superb. I love him. I think he'd get a lot more credit if he was at a bigger franchise. And yeah, then you have the Chiefs, and you have Patrick Mahomes, and they could literally draft me, Luke, and you for wide receiver. He'd still throw 50 touchdowns in a season. The Chiefs would still win that division by 3 games. The Chiefs would still probably make the way all the way out to the Super Bowl. So yeah, Chiefs still win that division.
Okay, then before we go on to our award winner predictions, quick go through our AFC and NFC 3 wildcard teams. So obviously for myself, I've gone for the division winners in the AFC as the Jets, Bengals, Jaguars, and Chiefs. I think my 5th seed is the Bills. My 6th seed is the Dolphins. I think they'll still make the playoffs and have enough to do that. And then 7th, I've gone for the Broncos. I think we will see a resurgence from Peyton and Wilson, and I think we'll ultimately see them just nick the spot maybe above the likes of Titans. I think Titans may be the team or Steelers that just miss out on that AFC title. And NFC teams, my winners are Eagles, Vikings, Panthers, and Niners. My 3 teams in the wild card from the NFC are the 5th seed in the Cowboys, Seahawks 6th seed, and then I was torn between the Lions and the Rams for that 7th seed. But after hearing the news about the Cooper Kupp injury, I'm going to go for the Lions as my number 7 seed in the NFC. Luke, your division winners in the AFC are the Bills, Bengals, Jags, and Chiefs. Who are the 3 teams making it from the AFC in the wildcard spot?
Oh, I think this is really interesting. I've got the Jets and the Dolphins, and I think the Chargers. That's the 3 that I've got.
And then your NFC division winners are the Eagles, Lions, Saints, and Niners. Who are the 3 teams making the playoffs from the NFC in the wild card?
So I think I had the Cowboys, the Seahawks, and I want to say the Bears, but I'm not going to. I think I might. Oh, I don't know. Actually. I'm going to say the Bears just because I want to be confident. So I'm going to say the Bears. I know I'm going to lose, but I don't care. Confidence, come on.
And that is exactly why you lose. That's why you lose every year in this prediction game.
I know.
Finally, Steve, your AFC winners in the divisions are the Bills, Bengals, Jags, and Chiefs. Who are the 3 teams making the playoff spots?
Ravens, finishing 2nd there. Chargers and Patriots.
No way.
Patriots just edging out.
That is bold.
Come on. And I thought I was being optimistic. I mean, come on.
And Steve, for your NFC, your division winners are the Eagles, Vikings, Falcons, and Niners. Who are the 3 teams making it as a wildcard spot in that conference?
See, this is a difficult one for me. I'll say, I mean, the Vikings are going to win the division. I don't see. Do you know what? I'm going to go with my heart, and this one instead of my head. The Lions are going to make a playoff spot. The Lions are going to finish second. The Vikings and make the playoffs. The Cowboys are going to make the second place and pull our wild card out behind us, which just leaves the other two divisions. No, actually, there's nothing in the other two divisions that I can say really is going to change my mind to say that I still think the Giants could steal the third wild card. I think you could get 2 wild card spots coming from the NFC East. I think it's such a strong division this year.
Interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked. I think Dable did an excellent job last year. I don't know whether he won Coach of the Year. If not, he should have done. Him or Carroll. They were 2 excellent coaches. I think with Daniel Jones, I think he'll take another leap. Do question the contract he got, but I think he did well enough to earn that. Barkley's now going to play there. I think they got a good team, and I think that certainly they'll be one of the teams I think I'll be battling for that. Maybe that 7th seed. I think they'll certainly be a team. I'll be in the conversation. Definitely, an 8 or 9 win season, I think, for the Giants. We've done the divisions. We're now going to go on to our particular categories. So I've already named my most underwhelming team as the Chargers. Luke, for you, who's your going to be most underwhelming team this season?
Oh, the Packers. Simple.
I mean, I expected nothing less. Steve, who's your most underwhelming team?
It'll be the Titans. It's a team that's going to say it's aging, it's slow. The injuries are catching up with them, and they've that meal-loving son of a gun rookie behind Tannehill. They're just, and I expect them to drop off this season by at least 2 or 3 games.
Okay, now surprise team. I'm going to wait till I give one of my Super Bowl contenders and sort of people who are playing in the game. So I'm going to keep my surprise team until then. You'll find out who that is later on in the episode. But for you, Steve, who's going to surprise the most this season?
I think when we did the predictions earlier, I gave you my surprise team of the year. It is going to be the Patriots. I say it's just we haven't had anything from them for a while. Belichick's been slowly cooking away in the background. They're at the most dangerous when we don't talk about them. Belichick is a superb coach, working with about average talent, but actually that's been shown in the past to be enough to win Super Bowls, or at the very least contend. And I think they'll be a wildcard team this year.
And then finally for you, Luke, your surprise team of the season.
Oh, surprise team of the season. I think this is really interesting, actually, because I, for a number of reasons, I think the Dolphins might be, actually, because I think the Dolphins will be better than everyone thinks.
That is amazing. That's
not because I'm trying to curry favor, but I do think the Dolphins will be better than everyone thinks. Genuinely.
Oh, that's music to my ears. I love hearing that. I love hearing anyone praising the Dolphins. I'm all for it. Now Steve's going in the background. Steve is not happy with that one. Now quickly go for the rookies of the year. So my offensive rookie of the year is Jordan Addison from the Vikings. I think he was my favourite receiver coming out of the draft. I think with Thielen gone, he'll come in and replace that role straight away. I think he'll do more than Osborne will do. And I got Will Anderson as my defensive rookie of the year. I think he's head and shoulders with everyone else in this draft. So I think he will ultimately win that award. Steve, for your offensive and defensive rookies of the year.
All right, so my offensive rookie of the year is an absolute out there wild card. I'm actually looking at Rashee Rice of the Kansas City Chiefs. He has speed, he has route running, he has good vertical for contested catches, and he has the best quarterback in the league throwing to him in a wide receiver core, which is very much open for someone to come in and dominate and be a new WR1 there. The way Tyreek Hill was when he was playing with Mahomes. I think Rice this season will flourish. I love Andy Reid's coaching, especially with rookie wide receivers. I think last year Sky Moore he had that opportunity and his talent just let him down. He just, his head wasn't there. I think that he will drop well down the pecking order this year. I think Rice will start from the beginning. And I think Rice will come out and establish himself within the first 3 or 4 weeks, and we'll be looking at him as offensive rookie of the year.
And then your defensive rookie of the year?
I'm going to go home with this one. Love my boys. I'm going to go Jalen Carter, the Eagles. He fell in the draft because of off-field concerns. And before that happened, they were talking about him as like number 1, number 2 pick. The Eagles are the perfect franchise for players like that. Players come in that they can put their stamp on the game without the pressure of the media, without the pressure of someone sitting going, hey, you need to sort this off-field stuff. The Eagles are the kind of franchise that calms a player down, tells them you're one of us, right? Everyone's made mistakes. you're here because of your talent, and you can go out in that field and show it. And it's in a division where, edge rushers and such are really like top end edge rushers. Haven't been around. We haven't had anyone truly dominant in the division for a while. Micah Parsons will be interesting this year, but Jalen Carter for me is going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Okay, and then
Defensive Rookie of the Year. Sorry.
Then for you, Luke, who's your offensive and defensive rookies of the year?
So, Offensive Rookie of the Year, I think, is Bian Robertson of Atlanta. I think he's probably the best player in the draft by a good distance, and I think he'll show why he was so highly regarded. So yeah, I think it'll be him. I'm with you in terms of the defensive. I think it's Will Anderson. I think he's head and shoulders above everyone else. Head and shoulders.
Speaking of which, wide receiver wise, I think the best receiver in the game is Justin Jefferson, and he is my pick for the offensive player of the year. And then my defensive player of the year, Micah Parsons. I think he's due that. I think he is already become one of the best defensive players in the year in his first 2 years in the league. And I think he will have another great year and win that award. Back with you, Luke, for your offensive and defensive players of the year.
Jamar Chase. I think he's going to be amazing again. And I'm with you with Micah Parsons. I think Micah Parsons is unbelievable and unplayable. So that's my two.
Yeah, I think he's absolutely fantastic. Steve, is it a clean sweep for Micah Parsons? And who's also your offensive player of the year?
So offensive player of the year, I'm going to agree with Luke. I think Jamar Chase. I think this is one of him and Jefferson run it back all season. It's going to be so much fun to watch. I think Chase just edges it. It's all going to be down with those two as to which quarterback stays fit. As long as both quarterbacks stay fit, that will go right away pretty much down to the last game. But Chase, for me, should win it. Defensive player of the year is going to be Myles Garrett. He swings a helmet like a frisbee. It's terrifying. He's due the award, and it has to be him because honestly, if it's Micah Parsons, Cowboys fans won't stop talking about it for years. Even if they win nothing, they'll be like, "We had the best defensive player in the league." Yeah, but you still lost, like you do every year.
I think not for me, sadly, but I think for a lot of fans, they may still do something in the next few years. I think they might end that NFC Championship appearance drought at some point in the next 4 years. But McCarthy's in charge, so who knows? MVP, back with you, Steve, for your MVP award winner.
It's a really short sentence. It's like Patrick Mahomes. Do I need to justify that one to anyone?
No? Absolutely not.
Okay, cool. In which case, let's move on. Let's be honest though. Allen will choke. Tua will get concussed. Hutch will probably outplay everybody, but still not win it because he's not the poster boy for football these days. Mahomes is. So Mahomes will win it.
And then for you, Luke?
Mahomes as well. Yeah. No brainer, to be honest.
Well, it's not a clean sweep. I've not gone for Mahomes.
Oh my God.
I've gone for a guy purely because the regular season award and his division will make him look good. I've gone for Trevor Lawrence as my MVP winner. I think he's playing.
You are smoking the same kind of thing that Josh Rock did.
Just you wait till my other one's coming up in a minute. But I think that he'll be. It's award done in the regular season, not the postseason. You're playing against Texans and Colts twice a year. I think that'll make his stats look good, and I think that he'll have. He's got Calvin Ridley in now. You mentioned it before. He's got a great receiver room. I think that he will elevate his game once again, and I think he'll win that MVP award. Now, this is where it gets really spicy. I'm looking forward to hearing one of my predictions now. We're going to give our AFC champion and our NFC champion. So, AFC-wise, I have picked the New York Jets, which pains me to say it. I think I'm really into the hype, and I think the Chiefs. I think the Bengals will beat the Chiefs in the divisional round. I think the Bengals will be the team they face in the conference championship game. Just in the Jets will just edge it because I think it's their year. They've gone all in, like the Buccaneers, like the Rams. They've got a quarterback, and I think they're going to do it once again and repeat the trend that's been going on in recent years. Luke, for you, who's winning the AFC?
I'm going to say the Chiefs, actually. I'm going to say the Chiefs because I just still think they're too good. I still think so. And they've been over the course many, many times. And Andy Reid, you can't, he's a great coach. He really is. So I'm still going to say the Chiefs.
Yeah, you can't really argue with that. They've been in 5 straight AFC title games. Mahomes has yet to play a playoff game on the road. So, yeah, that shows how good they've been the last 5 years. Steve, for your AFC winner.
Before I start that, I just want to say it's clearly 4:20 in the Davies household if he thinks the Jets are winning the JFC Championship.
Just you wait till my next one. Just you wait till my NFC
Oh,
win.
good
Just you
God
wait.
Almighty! No, it's the Chiefs. It's the best quarterback in football. It's probably arguably one of the top 3 coaches in football. It's a team that just finds a way to win. The Chris Jones thing is a distraction, but everything else about that team is it's what you need in a team that wins. The Chiefs are they're gonna go and do exactly the same as they did last year, all the way to the Super Bowl, and a home field advantage all the way there as well.
I'm sticking with you, Steve. Who will they play in the Super Bowl? Who's going to win the NFC?
I'm going for a repeat. I am going for the Eagles. I can't see any reason why I wouldn't. I mean, I look at the team from last season, and I look at what we added to it. We made it a better team. We kept the coaching stuff intact. We lost our offensive coordinator, who, as I said, have fun there down in Arizona. But there's nothing about the team. And what we've improved with the draft is we've improved the pass rush, which kind of last season was great, and this season should be superb. And when you can get to the quarterback as quick as we can, you can slow them down on offense. We have a supremely high-powered offense, and we kept it intact from last year. It's always been running back by committee, but the addition of DeAndre Swift is a real, I think that's a real upgrade on Miles Sanders. I just can't see any reason why the Eagles shouldn't win it.
Okay, and then for you, Luke, who's taking on the Chiefs in your Super Bowl matchup? Who's winning the NFC?
I'm going for the 49ers, actually. And the reason I'm going for the 49ers is I like the way they play, and I think McCaffrey is a difference maker. I really think he's unplayable. He's a Swiss Army knife in terms of players. So I just think Shanahan is going to have the edge there. Sorry, Steve, but I really like the 49ers this year. I think they're going to show how good they are, and defensively they're really good as well. So I've got a good feeling about them this year.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I think that, I think McCaffrey could be, I think along with Jefferson, the biggest threat to that long drought of a quarterback not winning an award for the MVP. I think that, he showed he can do it both ways, and he was a difference maker when he came in. And I think give him a full season, I think that he is certainly, this is why in fantasy drafts he's going either 1 or 2 overall for that reason alone. I think he's, really important for that team. And I think now he's no longer the bell cow like he was in the Panthers, where he was using every down. They've got a lot more guys around him. I think he's excelled. He's not been injured yet, which is something he's not had. He had, for his whole time towards the end in the Carolinas. So yeah, I think they're gonna do something good. Go on, Steve.
Just a final thought on there. I mean, look, so if you're predicting the Niners, you're saying that the Niners can beat the Eagles in the championship game. I mean, I get there were some issues last season with like injuries and such for the Niners, but do you honestly think even at full strength that Niners team can beat the Eagles in the championship game?
Yes, absolutely. In a one-game scenario, anything can happen. Like I said, I think McCaffrey's a difference maker. I don't think DeAndre Swift is actually as good as you think.
So okay.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Championship game, but I don't think you win it. Honestly, I don't think you win it.
I love to know the last time there was a back-to-back same Super Bowl. Maybe it would have been the Cowboys-Bills back in that 4-game stretch they had. Maybe it was that. I can't think of. There's been none, certainly in my lifetime, repeat Super Bowls. So I think it may take a lot. And also, Javon Hargrave's go on the other side. I think the Niners could capitalise on that. But for here we go. I've been planning this for months. It's been in my head for about 4 months now. I put £10 on it back in May. Now, this team's going to beat the Niners in the divisional round, and they're going to beat the Eagles in the conference championship game. My team to win the NFC is the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, come on.
Just let that brew in for a second.
Yeah, town.
Honestly, I mean, I'm surprised your house hasn't been raided. There's that many drugs there, Andy. Honestly.
What?
No, I gave a little bit of reason before, and I did allude to it now, but Jefferson winning player of the year. I've got Addison winning rookie of the year. And I think that, everyone's talking about the defense, but I think Brian Flores, I mentioned before, he is an excellent defensive coach. He had a good spell in Miami on the defense side of things, and a really good spell with the Patriots as a defensive coordinator. So I think that having him in will make actually the team better than people think. Their defense is getting a lot of, for me personally, a lot of disservice, a lot of unfair stick. And I think there's still some good players there. You've got Byron Murphy's come in. You've got Harrison Smith is still there. You've got Andrew Booth, one of the draft picks. I think he's a this year or last year. I think it's a good I think it's obviously it's not the best defense in the world, but I think that even if the defense goes from being, I think they were 30th last year, even if they go towards maybe being the 15th or 16th best, add that in with Kirk Cousins throwing to Jefferson and Addison and KJ Osborne and Mattison as number one back. I don't think that's pointed out weakness, but Hawkinson as a tight end, I think it's a really good offense. I think the defense could let them down, but I think with Flores there, I think he's going to really elevate their game. And if I don't say it, I'll regret it. If I don't say it now and I go on to make the Super Bowl, I'll regret it forever. So I've got to have it on record that I've said this. So yeah, Vikings going to win it, but ultimately they will lose to the Jets. In my Super Bowl prediction, the Jets are going to win it, which again, pains to say it, but I think Rodgers will get his second Super Bowl ring and his second Super Bowl MVP, and he will win it and end, what's it now, 52 years of hurt it will be, I think, at that point. So I think the Jets will, unfortunately, take home the crown. Luke, yours is the Niners against the Chiefs. Who's going to ultimately win the Super Bowl?
Well, given that I think Mahomes is going to be MVP, then I think it's going to be the Chiefs, right? That's it. And they were good last year. And it was an amazing performance by Hurts in the game, but Mahomes showed why he's so good, and he's unplayable. Really, he's unplayable. So I think they'll win it again.
And then Steve, now is it obvious? Is Steve going to go to the Eagles or is he going to go to Chiefs?
It is the 2024 Revenge Tour. It is the season where we kind of make up for that underwhelming performance in the Super Bowl last year. Right from the outset, we're going to come out hot, get onto Mahomes, more importantly, and the secondary is going to do its job this year, and we are going to see an Eagles Super Bowl win.
And with that, you retire Jason Kelce, you retire Brandon Graham, you retire Fletcher Cox, and they'll all go out in the sunset.
Which is what they deserve.
Absolutely. I think they're Eagles legends. We mentioned it a bit on the Eagles podcast we did, but I think those three players especially deserve a lot of love from Eagles fans. So yeah, should be an exciting season. And yeah, looking forward to it a lot. And we will obviously post all our predictions via graphic on our socials. So if you haven't listened to the podcast, you'll be able to find it on our socials anyway. But in the meantime, just thank you, Luke and Steve, for coming on once again.
You're welcome, mate. It was good fun. Thanks for having us on.
Absolutely no problem at all.
Always a pleasure.
And yeah, we'll look forward to having, of course, once again, throughout the season, weekly game previews, game reviews, and also leading on to the Super Bowl, which will be this year, or next year, I should say, in Vegas. But in the meantime, this has been the Across the Pod NFL podcast. I've been host Andy. This has been Luke and Steve, and we will see you guys